Okay, now, the last one of these four was inner child work. So that's what we're going to talk about now. And the reason we're going to talk about inner child work is because lots of people get stuck in the present because the past is so huge. And there's many ways to talk about this. And I like to remind us all who believe in God the way we do about the timeless and agelessness of your spirit self. Since your inner being is timeless and ageless, you are capable of time travel. And of course, the negative self does not want you to believe this. And it says, well, what happened to us in the past is done. And there's nothing you can do about it. You're stuck back there, right? And what the real self says is, wait a minute. If the past can ruin the present, as if there's no time, like in a phobia, right? Why couldn't the present go back and heal the past, as if there's no time? You got to be deeper than a mud puddle to get that one. If the past can ruin the present, how many of you have a phobia of some kind? Spiders, the dark, water, falling, snakes, men, okay, right? Where did you get that phobia? Some unfortunate incident, or 1,000 of them, that taught you fear will protect me from driving on the freeway. Because I got in 3 wrecks, right? So phobias come from the past. So why should we go to our graves, helpless victims of something that happened to us 20 years ago, 30, 10? It's stupid. It's part of the test of the Earth School to overcome that kind of stuff. So you won't die dumb. You're not going to get an A in the Earth School if you die with the childhood wounds in your mind and your heart. That this is the time to get rid of that stuff. And I really think that repentance includes getting over phobias and wounds. Anyone agree? So, if the past can ruin the present as if there's no time, then why can't the present go back and heal the past as if there's no time? And the answer is, it can. Hundreds of people have done it. Is there anyone in this room who has completely erased a phobia or a wound by going back to their inner child and healing her or him? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 people. So we'd like to testify to you that it is possible to do time travel. And if you believe in your spirit self being timeless and ageless, which it is, Joseph Smith himself said, there is no time with the gods as we know it here. Get it? So your real self is timeless and ageless, and you came down to Earth School for 70 or 80 years. And Earth School has time in it, it has space in it, it has bodies, it has age. Like we said with the childhood stages of life, the age of the body will trigger off certain issues for you to learn as you get older and older, right?
Can you please repeat that, Scott?
What?
If the past can ruin the present.
If the past can ruin the present as if there's no time, then why can't the present go back and heal the past as if there's no time? There's 100 examples. Phobias are some of the ones that are the easiest. Little things like that, they're easy. But suppose you hate men, and every time you have a male child, you're going to hate him. That is harder. And suppose you think you're dumb and no good. That's a phobia. You have the power to unlearn that. I have another saying I'd like you to memorize. Learning is unlearning. So I like to amend the statement to, some learning is unlearning. Some learning is new learning, right? Okay, so timeless and ageless. With a phobia, if you got it 30 years ago, and it's presented in your face. Anyone have a spider phobia? Yeah. So, do you know where you got it from? In our tapes and books, there's a story of a patient that came in to me to work with something else, but she also had a spider phobia. She never had told me. And as we were talking one day, a spider came out of the heater up on her down. So whoop, here I am. She starts going, oh my gosh, get him, get him, get him. Is that the way you do when you see spiders? So I clapped him in my hands and took the Kleenex and threw him in the wastebasket. Thank you. Here's a 34-year-old lady acting just as she did when she was 3. And then I says, why don't you close your eyes, Cindy? We'll go back and see where you got this phobia. And I said, do you know where you got it? No. Well, why don't you close your eyes and see yourself walking back in front of your college, back in front of your high school. She was going. Back in front of your junior high, back in front of your grade school. Can you see the house where you lived before you went to school? Yeah. Now, can you see any trouble with spiders? Oh, gosh. She's back there. 3 years old. She saw a little 3-year-old girl waking up from a nap. Her brother Jimmy had a pet tarantula. He put it on her chest. She wakes up. Ah! So then we say, okay, Cindy, bring your big self down the time tunnel to help little Cindy. Okay. And she sees her coming down through the schools and what does the big self do? She takes the spider off and gives it to Jimmy and says, get rid of this thing. And then she holds the little girl and lets her cry. Go ahead and cry, Cindy, you'll feel better. I love you. She holds her and pats her on the back and lets her cry. And then after the kid cries, which is a kind of catharsis, right? Then the big self says, how can I help you, honey? And the little girl said, you should tell Jimmy not to do that. The big self says, okay. And the big self says, Jimmy, you should not do that. Now what can I do? No, I shouldn't be as afraid as I am. And the big self says, why can Jimmy play with a spider and have so much fun? It doesn't bite him. He's not afraid. Yeah. And pretty soon the little girl says, tell Jimmy to bring a spider because I want to pet the sides of it, hold it and play. Pretty soon, she's all smiles, playing with the spider back at age 3. This is amazing. And then she's, okay, I'm ready to come back now. You ready to come back? How do you feel about spiders? I like them. She comes back up through the schools. She comes up there and she opens her eyes and she said, why did you kill that nice spider? Now, she may have to do that many times, but that's a simple example of how you could time travel and how the present could correct the past as if there's no time. You see, the negative self does not want you to make progress. It does not want you to get over your phobias. And so it says you'll have a spider phobia in your grave. You cannot undo the past. So remember that. If the past can ruin the present as if there's no time, why can't the present go back and heal the past as if there's no time? Why does as if there's no time only pertain to the bad stuff? Why doesn't it pertain to the good stuff, namely healing? And so that's what inner child work is about. And we have a saying that it's never too late to have a happy childhood. And we use the word reframe the past. Well, if if that happened to me, how can I deny that it happened? You don't have to. You can go back and reframe it, like we did in hypnosis. I have a lot of men come to me with breast fixations, which is all over this country. Look at the breast augmentation industry. Sky high. Now, I learned today from an authority that the average age of children being weaned from the breast in the United States is 6 months. International average for weaning is 4 years. Third world countries average 6 or 7 years. So you see why all the men in this country look at your breasts. Anyway, I remember a patient whose mommy died. He never got nursed. And he had a stepmom that used to be pretty mean to him because he wasn't her kid. She liked her kids, but not the others. The only reason he got the other stepkids is so she could marry John, right? So he had to go back and visualize being nursed. And one of the treatments in therapy was get some nursing books, subscribe to Motherhood magazine, and enjoy. But it didn't work because he couldn't see his mommy because she died when he was born. So we visualized him. The mommy comes back to life and nurses him all he wants. And pretty soon, girls turn into people instead of breasts. And he can discover the whole world of female sisters and personalities. Isn't that amazing? So there are many examples. The barrette, everything that you could get over. Now, how many of you know what some of your hang-ups are? They're not just little phobias, but wounds. Talk about that. Wounds are like phobias, only they're not about places or things. Phobias are about things and places. Spiders, snakes, heights, the dark. You get it? Little small places, claustrophobia. But wounds are about interaction forms. So a wound is like a phobia, only it's deeper, it's more complex, and it's more pervasive. It's interactions that you're afraid of. And 3 major wounds that we often hear about are criticism wound, or if you can't forget the word phobia, call it a criticism phobia. Controlling wound and abandonment wound. Or rejection wound. Now, of course, the mother of all wounds is abandonment. Why? Because all God's children need love. If they don't get it, they get weird, right? So abandonment is the big one. Controlling is a form of abandonment because what do? You don't trust the person to figure stuff out. You do it for them. Here, give me that, I'll show you. Instead of, no, here's what you do. Try it yourself, right? Criticism, of course, is not love. It's the opposite of praise. All people who have criticism wounds, their favorite love supply is praise. Right? So, there's many more wounds. And you can name any wound anything you want. I had a guy tell me once, I gotta have a car that delivers. And when you press on the gas, it goes. You do, huh? Yeah. You do you? Anybody hear that joke about the wide-mouthed frog? This frog was going through the jungle pretending he was a newspaper nutrition reporter, and he came up to each animal and said, he was a wide-mouthed frog, and you know how they talk. What do you eat for breakfast? So he came to the monkeys, and they said, we like bananas, and then he wrote down bananas and blah, 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 blah. And then he came to another animal, elephants. What do you eat for breakfast? We reach up in the trees and eat the leaves and branches, and he wrote that down. And he came to the crocodile, and he said, What do you eat for breakfast? Now, those of you that are going like this, are easily hypnotized. You would be the ones who would pick out of the audience to come up here and be a monkey. What do you, stop it, what do you eat for breakfast? And the crocodile said, I eat wide-mouthed frogs. You do you? They didn't want him to eat him, you know. So I said to the boy with a non-delivery wound, a non-delivery wound? Does anyone have a non-delivery wound? Where does that come from? Yeah, I like something that delivers. Well, Tony, just finish this sentence for me, please. I like something that delivers because. See how the becauses can help you? Well, I just like something that delivers, that does what it says it'll do. And if a car goes up to 80 in 6 seconds, I want to see her deliver. Yes, I understand that. Please don't finish sentences with synonyms. I wasn't doing that. Well, anyway, I like things that deliver because, and pretty soon he got down to business. My dad used to promise me stuff and never do it. That's a non-delivery, isn't it? And my mom. And this is called broken promises. Anyone have a broken promises? Well, yes. And so he gets back to it, and what is it? They promised and never did it. That made me really hurt inside, like they didn't care about me. See what the sentences will do? They'll get you back to childhood pain. And then what's that guy going to do? He's going to do some visualizations to a mommy who did care about him, to a daddy who did what he promised, or else he wouldn't promise it. And pretty soon he doesn't have to screech out in the car all the time. It's amazing. It can work if you want to do it, and you'll pay the price. What is the price? Work, and don't be afraid of the pain. No pain, no gain. You must taste the bitter to prize the sweet. Everything has a price. You don't get anything for free, right? And so that's what this is. Now, this is why lots of people won't go back, because they don't want the pain. And in fact, there's a lot of people who have completely covered up their pain by two ways: suppression and repression. How many can remember back to 5, 4? Look at the hands now going down. 3, 2, 1. Whoa, look at this lady. 1. There are people like that, but they're very rare. Most people cannot go back past 5 or 4. And if you had a tough childhood, which had a lot of pain and a lot of rejection or criticism or controlling, you're going to cover it up so you can survive. It's called a survival skill. Repression means you don't even know you've covered it up. Suppression means you do know you covered it up. So lots of people with repression and suppression say they can't do inner child work because they don't remember anything to go back to. And so what do we say? Make it up. You mean I should make up that I never got nursed? And then if he asks his mom, oh yes, I did. Because she knows it's very important now with the literature, but she didn't. So asking doesn't often help. So you make it up and see what you can go back to. Why? Because if you treat with the big self what you made up, you'll start to get better. Because sometimes when we make stuff up, it's more accurate than what we remember. Trust your guts, right? Dreams are made up, but they're very accurate to some of the problems you're going through. We're going to show you how to do that. Okay, so how many people in here know that they have a criticism wound and that it's hard for you to take feedback? How many know that you have a controlling wound from being overly controlled or turned completely loose? Don't forget, you can have a controlling wound by never having to do anything. But most of them come from over. Freud said that we're fixated or stuck in our stages, oral, anal, genital, by too much gratification or too little. So it is with the wounds. How do people get criticism wounds? Usually someone's always taking delight in putting them down. Once I came home from being out, my daughter was the babysitter. The house was vacuumed, the dishes were done, the kids were in bed on time. But in the sink were some pots and pans that she couldn't get clean, so she let them soak. So I come in the door and say, Julie, how come these pots and pans are in the sink? She threw down her hand and said, Dad, I have enough of this. I do 10 things right, and one thing I didn't do quite perfect, and that's all you talk about. I said, I'm going to my room. She'll have a criticism wound if I don't repent from that. See? How many have ever been picked to death at one little thing with 29 good things? Yes. That'll make you feel like, I don't deserve it. I'm no good. I don't deserve to come to therapy. I don't deserve to heal my wounded child. I'm just a piece of junk. Because little kids believe this stuff. People who have been overly controlled, what do they believe? I can't do anything right. Let mommy do it. They'll get married to a mommy wife and expect her to do everything because they're terrified of making a mistake. Yes?
I have a question about a toddler, like if they're still in their toddler age and you want to breastfeed, what can you do now for them so they don't grow up with that?
Get a lot of breastfeeding magazines, show them. And I'll tell you one good thing to do. If you have a new baby, breastfeed that baby right in front of those kids. Because those kids that haven't been breastfed are going to sit down there and wish they were up on your lap, nurse. So don't cover up what you're doing. Let them see it. Let them fantasize. Tell them, you know, when you were little, I didn't do this for you because I was sick. Right? And let them take part in it. Yeah. Well, should you let them do it too? Well, I don't know. You figure it out. See how you feel about it, right?
I have a son that's 13, and he comes up and he just puts his face right here whenever he touches me.
Right into your breasts. Good. Right, and you don't go, oh, weird, you freak. I know women that won't nurse their babies because they're afraid they'll get sexually aroused because the only thing their breast has ever been used for is sexual arousal when making love. They haven't even learned that they can be used for two things, not just one. And the books, of course, say, go ahead and nurse. But you'll get over that, and pretty soon you'll see that this is for the baby feeding, right?
Does clearing up criticism, your own criticism,
Yeah.
help you not be as critical?
Yes. Yes. Did you hear her? She said, will clearing up your own criticism wounds make you less critical of others? Yes, because the law is all criticizers have been criticized. All bullies have been bullied. Right? Criticizing is verbal abuse, isn't it? Okay, so does that help you with that? It's criticism. And so you go back to when they're criticizing you, and the big self will tell the little girl, don't believe a thing they say, Valerie. Don't believe a thing. They're in their negative. They're scared. How many of you saw The Kid with Bruce Willis, Walt Disney? I want you all to get that next time you're in the video store. Because it's a movie about inner child work. How many of you saw that now? Can you remember? The little kid came, the kid with Bruce Willis. The little kid came to live with Bruce. It was him because it had the same birthmark, the same. First, he was really mean to that kid. Why? Because his parents were mean to him. And if he had have been married and had some kids, he'd be mean to those kids. It's like you speak English to them, right? And then his girlfriend Amy said, why don't you be nice to that little kid? You're so rude to him. So he started being nice to the little kid. And the kid started to trust him. And then the kid took him back in time. Remember? And when the kid first came into the home, you know what he said to Bruce? That wasn't his name, but he said, you mean you're 40 years old and you're not married and you don't have a dog? Remember? And then he went back in time when he trusted the big self. And he saw the little boy saw himself on the sidewalk in front of his house. And the little boy had trouble at school, and the school called the home. The mother got out of her sick bed, came to school, and got little Brucey and brought him back home. And then she died.
Oh,
And so the father, who was scared to death before the mother died, was out on the front walk, yelling to the little boy, "You killed your mother, you selfish, evil child. Why can't you be good at school? You killed your mother." But this time, the big self was there. And the big self said, "Little Brucey, you did not kill your mother." "Well, Dad said it. He said I did." And the big self says, "He said it because he was scared." See, she wasn't dead yet. He said it because she was scared. Oh, just because he was scared. I didn't kill her. The big self said she was going to die anyway. She had pneumonia. She's always been sickly. It wasn't your fault, honey. You know what that did for that big 40-year-old Bruce Willis? He could get married now to Amy. Why? Because he wasn't afraid she'd die. And he wasn't afraid that he'd lose her. Parent to spouse transference, the royal road to divorce. Okay, so that was it. And then what about the dog? Anybody remember the three-legged dog? Had one of his legs cut off, and at the schoolyard, the bullies had put firecrackers all around the dog. Anyone remember that? And they wanted Brucey to light the thing, to persecute the dog and watch him trying to run on three legs with firecrackers going off. And the big self said to them, "You boys get out of here." And the little boy, "You would never do this to the dog, would you, honey?" Loved the dog, and they took the firecrackers off. And what happened in Big Bruce's life? He could get a dog. So watch the movie. You'll love it after you do some inner